Welcome to your breakfast show. Inside Nigeria is reaching your leadership television. My name is Winifred Ugbebo, your host on the program. Of course, today is Thursday, December 7th, 2023. As usual on the program is a review program where we discuss front headline stories on some select newspapers. In our menu today, we have Nigeria's most influential newspaper, The Punch, THISDAY, The Guardian, and Vanguard, all for review this morning, especially on your first segment of the show. Well, on the second segment, we'll be sharing more insight on some of the headline stories. Don't go away. First, as usual on the program, we like to flag up with Nigeria's most influential leadership. Leadership's leading story today says Supreme Court Justice Samani Sanke Ada 8 others pass screening. Supreme Court Justices Samani Sake Ada 8 others pass screening. Justice Nwosu Iheme picked from reserve list. NJC appoints one Court of Appeal justice, 6 heads of court, 26 others. This is the leading story on today's leadership. Third Republic lawmakers demand unpaid salaries, claims. Stop tax waiver, senators executive. Renovation, I live in my private residence, Gbajabia Mila. And also the Guest Management Research Center. The story continues on page 8 of leadership. As we move up, we see cracks as 7 political parties form coalition against APC. The story is on page 7 of leadership. And in the business boss, COP28, NNPC sees 2Ds for domestic international markets. Above the masthead, Muslim leaders want Kaduna bombing victims compensated. Ni visited Kuje prison to mark anniversary, in quote, not to see a Mefele official. The story is on page 4 of leadership. And as we normally do, we move over to page 3 for our stand. Our stand is Supreme Court and the onslaught on its integrity. You have to find out more as we move to the back page to see being blunt with Muazu Elaze. Being blunt with Muazu Elaze, and says what 15 billion naira can do for FCT. Talking about the 15 billion naira being marked by the FCT minister for rebuilding of VP's residence. And Muazu Elaze is writing on what 15 billion naira can do for FCT. You have to find out what that amount, bogus amount, can actually do for FCT, even as you log on to the website of leadership, www.leadership.ng. From leadership, we move to THISDAY. THISDAY has similar story with that of leadership. Supreme Court to hit full complement as NJC recommends appointment of 11 justices. Supreme Court to hit full complement as NJC, that is National Judicial Council, recommends appointment of 11 justices. Abiru Samani Ada Sanke Uwa Nwosu Iheme, 5 others make list. You'll find out the story more on page 16 of THISDAY. And above that, we have Tinubu to Talon. Our countries are conjoined twins, head together at hip. Flays lack of development synergy between Nigeria and Benin Republic. Beninese president advocates free movement of people, goods. The story continues on the headline, on the cover of the paper, and also continues on page 16 of the paper. And above that, we have ex-beauty queen Helen Prest challenges admissibility of 1974 marriage certificate. Of course, the marriage war, of course, inheritance war with the first wife of their mutual husband. rages on many years after demise of Dr. SBT Queen Heli Press challenges admissibility of 1974 marriage certificate. It's a story that continues, of course, a developing one that continues on page 16 of this day. And above the masthead of this day, Cardoso approves new CBN service charter, restates commitment to its full implementation. Police prioritize customer satisfaction orders. Following JSK's exit, P&G moves to leave Nigeria. Oh, what a story. It's a story that continues on page 6 of this day. For continuation of these headline stories, inside stories, and the editorial, log on to the website of This Day, www.thisdaylive.com. The Punch is next. Punch says Kaduna village bombing. Protesters storm National Assembly. AI threatening suits. Deaths reach 127. Protesters condemn killings. United Nations urges military to protect civilians. PDP asks Tinubu to declare national mourning. Victims may demand 29 billion naira. Of course, underneath that story, we have pictures of the new justices that are being recommended for appointment to Supreme Court. Federal government votes 50 billion naira for student loan. Demolition, court freezes Kano accounts over 30 billion naira judgment. Police probe attack on Kogi Tribunal Secretary. Supreme Court, 11 justices scale NJC hurdles, await Tinubu's nod. That is the leading story for the pictorials beneath the leading story. Supreme Court, 11 justices scale NJC hurdles, await Tinubu's nod. Is also the leading story in This Day and Leadership. Above the masthead of the Punch, we have 346 billion naira voted for presidential jets refreshment orders. Airlines eyed $964 billion. Nigerian African carriers post losses. Federal government loses $161 million to 9-year conflict with Inters NPA. Federal government loses $161 million to 9-year conflict with Inters NPA. These are the leading stories on the Punch today, December 7, 2023. And for more on these inside stories, you log on to the website of the Punch. From that, we also move to the next paper on our menu, and that is Vanguard. Vanguard also has similar headline story with the Punch. Bombing error won't deter fight against terrorism, Defense Minister. Bombing error won't deter fight against terrorism, Defense Minister. UN deploys incident. Death toll rises to 127. Victims recount ordeals. Some injured move to Army 44 Reference Hospital. PDP demands probe compensation for victims. CSO seeks overhaul of security architecture. Of course, the story continues on page 5 of Vanguard. Budget 2024. Military to sustain assaults on terrorist bandits. Beninese president visits Tinubu. That is the pictorial on Vanguard. Same picture on Leadership. Beninese president visits Tinubu. Stop tax waivers. Concessions already granted to corporate entities. Senate tells federal government. Stop tax waivers. Concessions already granted to corporate entities. Senate tells federal government. Government should discourage pegging naira to a currency, experts say. Government should discourage pegging naira to a currency, experts. And in sports, we have Eagles must win AFCON. Eno tells NFF Pesero. Eagles must win AFCON. Eno tells NFF Pesero. And by the side, we have plot to survive people's will, portends danger, coalition. Pastor Chris Oyahilome sharing God's love through ministry. It's also a headline story on that Vanguard. From that, we move to the stories above the masthead of Vanguard. More suffering for retirees as federal government cuts pension spending by 21%. NJC okays 11 new justices for Supreme Court. Demolition, court freezes Kano government accounts over 30 billion naira compensation. These are the leading stories on Vanguard today. For more continuation, log on to the website of Vanguard. And with Vanguard, we come to the last paper for review on this first segment of the show, and that is The Guardian. Guardian's leading story says dilapidated police barracks, 22,000 officers await relocation, claims 7 months after quit notice. Dilapidated police barracks, 22,000 officers await relocation, claims 7 months after quick notice. And understanding that, we also have illustration of the leading story. We have Ministry of Police Affairs 2024 budget, 938.73 billion naira, and we have out of it personnel 806.7 billion naira, overhead 62.4 billion naira, capital projects 69.6 billion naira, ongoing assessment of police barracks 100.5 million naira, construction provision of stations barracks 5.77 billion naira, and rehabilitation repairs of stations barracks 1 billion naira. That is the illustration beneath the leading story today. Dilapidated police barracks, 22,000 officers await relocation, claims 7 months after quick notice. Beneath that, Tinubu threatens to shut public buildings, denying access to people with disabilities. Tinubu threatens to shut public buildings, denying access to persons with disabilities. It's in news page 3 of The Guardian. Don't forget the world commemorated World Disabilities Day on December 3. And Tinubu threatens, obviously in reaction or reacting to World Disabilities Day, threatens to shut public buildings, denying access to PWDs. UN flails Kaduna bombing as protesters storm National Assembly, demand minister's resignation. Is a news that continues on page 8 of The Guardian. Arewa coalition alleges Kano crisis against Tinubu. Youth Games, a decade of deceit or work in progress. That is the news analyst today in The Guardian. And we have IVF, Nigerian youth sell garments for survivor. IVF, Nigerian youth sell garments for survivor. Sportsmanship lesson of the Liberian election. That is the editorial today on The Guardian. Sportsmanship lesson of the Liberian election. And of course, the last headline story today says 2023 exit lists. P&G shuts manufacturing as forest crisis takes toll on production. It's a news that continues on page 8, business news for that matter, on page 18 of The Guardian. For continuation of these headline stories, the editorial inside stories, log on to the website of The Guardian, www.guardian.ng. And with that, we come to the end of today's first segment of the show, Inside Nigeria. My name is Winifred Ugwebo. Don't forget, we have second segment of the show coming up as our in-house, as our public affairs analyst is already in the studio. Don't go away. Stay tuned.
Be part of our brand. Leadership for God and country.
Nigeria breakfast show on leadership television. My name is Winifred Igbobo once again, and of course, as you can see, I have with me in the studio my Thursday guest. He's a political economist, public affairs analyst, Olamilekan Adefolaro. Thank you so much once again.
Thanks
It's
for
always
having
a
me.
pleasure to have you on the program.
Thanks.
Well, what is the headline stories? Some papers are washed with this nomination of 11 justices to the Supreme Court. Of course, it's long overdue.
Exactly.
It took the outgoing, the valedictory speech of the outgoing member of the Supreme Court, Justice Dante Ju, to drive home that point, and of course speedy the appointment of these justices. Well, be that as it may, we are going to be discussing the Guardian's headline story: dilapidated police barracks, 22,000 officers await relocation claims 7 months after quick notice. It's a story that has been trending over the years when videos went viral of the dilapidated police barracks in Lagos, which actually was begging or screaming for help. And of course, following that, quick notice was given to these about 22,000 officers who were inhabiting the barracks. But Guardian is reporting that 7 months after quick notice, they are yet to collect their claims. What is actually happening?
I think it's very important to bring this come to the notice of the federal government, even though the newspaper reporting it 7 months after this set of police officers have now received their claims, whatever amount is meant for them. I think it draws their attention to what most people have been saying, or most reporters have indicated that there's need for accountability and transparency in the police funding aspect, because you can't say that this money have not been given. I know in the 2022 budget, this particular money was also there. So what happened? Why is that it was not paid to this set of people? Why are we now pushing it to 2024 budget? So a great concern that by now the Police Service Commission, the IG, and other agencies that are responsible for this, for the welfare of these men, should take this into consideration and see how they can solve this problem as soon as possible. Because for me, the more they delay in solving the problem, the more it attracts. Who know the next set of police officers that also want to lay claims to this kind of thing?
But however, be that as it may, Olamilekan, don't you think that we are playing too lightly, or we are taking for granted the activities of our security personnel, given the key role they are playing? Because especially in respect to police, they maintain law and order, and their welfare should not be taken for granted. Why is this so? You could also, I think there's also a nexus between the state of insecurity in our country today, and of course with our security agency. Because once somebody is not taken care of, how do you expect the person to go about his duties as securing the nation, and of course maintaining law and order?
For me, it is expected that we have a very concrete and more pragmatic welfare package for our police officers. Though recently their salary was just increased to 70,000. That means the least in the rank of police 70,000, and others also were affected. But other aspects of their welfare, including medicals, health, housing, and the rest of them, I don't know how much the government is taking care. If you look at the picture on newspaper this morning, I know most of those barracks in Lagos. I have friends that all grew up that stay in Obalende Barrack or the Don Barrack and the rest of the barracks. They have this kind of structure. Over the years, they are now dilapidated and it calls for renewal. But on the other aspect is this: even though government doesn't want to build new barracks, can you create opportunity for this guy to having housing allowance or rent allowance, as other agencies of government staff get something like this? So it will go a long way to ameliorate some of their challenges, and also help them to keep them in faith with the kind of services they are running to, also the security aspect.
However, even concerning still on their welfare, there were reports that these police officers, apart from the first uniform they are given, that subsequent ones, they are also responsible for their own uniform. So how is this being, and what I just want you to look at, maybe draw a nexus between the insecurity situation, because I once had a report that it's insecurity, but the fact that kidnappings, crime rates have been consistently on the rise in Nigeria, it means the police or the security, I don't want to lay it solely on the doorstep of the police. Security should also be, there's a nexus between them anyway. Maybe security should be held accountable. But can you really blame them when their own welfare is not taken care of? Because there's a saying that an idle mind is a devil's workshop. The fact that they are not well taken care of, and look at crime here, and you know that most of these security agencies, they know most of these
criminals.
criminals.
As we have. No, one thing about they are not idle, but the challenge is that their welfare package is not enough
It's not
to take care
enough.
of their needs. So they resort to sharp practices, and that
Yes.
sharp practice means that they may become an informant to criminals. They may become a part and parcel of criminal activities that will be helping them to earn one or two things. And when you talk about bribing them on the highway, it means that that is the sure way for them to
Yes.
make money. And then those are the shortcuts that these security personnel have been able to develop themselves to conclude to ameliorate some of the challenges they have. when
Yesterday, it
comes to
was even
payment.
reported in one of the papers that 6 police officers were held in Rivers State over kidnap of a hotel staff. I read the story, and it took the manager of the hotel, who incidentally, luckily for the victim, that he had the DPO just with him,
Exactly.
and the DPO was able to manage the situation, made as if he was the victim's family, and where do we take the ransom to? They were demanding 1 million naira ransom. They took him to the forest, Choba Forest. They were driving around with him. They had him handcuffed, and we were going about their normal duties until when it was late, and they drove him to Choba Forest. It was there they said, okay, which call your relation for 1 million naira. These are police officers. Luckily for the victim, like I said, he called his boss, the hotel where he works, the owner of the hotel, and for him, the hotel had the DPO with him at that instance. So the DPO just took charge, pretended as if he was the victim's family, and eventually took, where do we take the 1 million naira? Of course, he mobilized with his boys.
Yes, and
That's how
able to
they rounded
arrest
him up. So many people are also of the opinion that really, especially where kidnapping has continued to thrive in the country without abating. How do you see that? So, and considering the welfare of the police officers, which is deplorable, it begins to affect their psychology.
Exactly. And importantly, it affects their psychology in the sense that the theory in place now is that we have conflict entrepreneurs.
Yes.
They could also be a part of the conflict entrepreneurs because there is a way they can also make money.
Yes,
and they also can also ensure that this security challenge that we have will never go away.
Yes.
So that they can continue like that and begin
Exactly.
to, they could use that opportunity to milk the people,
Yes.
milk the state, and milk the entire Nigeria.
Yes.
And we just hope that the government can understand that the best packages in terms of welfare will help to reduce some of the conflict within the security architecture of Nigeria. And that means paying them well and ensuring that they have at least an insurance that can do better for them.
Yes.
Particularly when they retire, they also have something to follow. Because as we speak right now, when it comes to a pension for police, there is nothing to talk about it because they always
There's
have
nothing to talk about, and even the weapons that they have, they are working with, it's quite outdated. Whereas all these criminals, they have all
well
these
sophisticated
weapons and all those stuff. And it's also even on record that police will even be the one when you report that your victim of your family, or loved ones have been kidnapped. Police will advise you for your own interest, just go and pay them the
whatever you
ransom.
can
Unlike what we have in other crimes that they will tell you, no, you are not supposed to pay ransom. But our police will even advise you that is just the only way to go about it. So what can actually be done, because crime rate is not going down too soon, and there seems to be no effort to stem the tide?
For me, one is to look at the welfare of the security personnel of Nigeria. What can we do to improve their welfare? And when we talk about the welfare, we're not talking about the top to bottom. We're talking from the bottom to the top.
To the top.
Then look at their welfare, the pension, the insurance, their medicals, their health issues, their housing, including their family members. If you can have something that is very concrete, that is more practical, that they can see, they can feel, there is more transparent in giving it to them. Not the one that is so cumbersome, like this housing claim they're supposed to have gotten 7 months ago, and here we are still talking about it. It means that if we don't have that transparent packaging that will allow them to get what they want to get at the time they're supposed to get it, to become a challenge. So if you can solve that bureaucratic challenge around welfare package for these men and of our security institution, it will go a long way. It will solve half of the security challenge that we have. If they know that they will be well paid, they'll be well taken care of. Even if they die in action, their family members will receive their whatever they want to give them. They will want to put their effort in the job. But when it is the other way around, that whatever they work for, somebody else will hijack it, they may not put their mind to work.
And what we are talking about, police, is still also subsist for frontline soldiers, because we've had situations whereby some soldiers were prior that even though they are the forefront lines, their emoluments are not being taken care of in their welfare. It's really a sad trajectory. Well, from police we are talking business or pharmacies now. Some papers have it on their headlines. This day says, following GSK's exit, P&G moves to leave Nigeria. The story is on page 6 of this day. Same similar story we have on The Guardian. Guardian says 2023 exit list. P&G shuts manufacturing as forest crisis takes toll on production. What are we having here? And of course, there are some circulars that following the exit of JSK, some drugs, pharmaceuticals have increased over 100%, or if not more than 200%. What can be done to stem this? What can be done to you know? Okay, you see, inflation. New survey shows Bicham Ampik loss jumps from 750 naira to 9,000. You can see that one is above almost 500%.
Exactly.
Augmenting 4,000 to 26,000 naira. Paracetamol 14 naira to 115 naira.
I think for me, it's a sign.
And this is for, at least we could say that it's the mid class and the down class that actually buy drugs.
Exactly.
Go to pharmacy, buy drugs in Nigeria. The rich ones, they go out, jet out of the country to patronize.
Tourist medical.
So, but what can be done, because there seems no end in sight following this JSK's exit? P&G moves to leave Nigeria.
I think for me, practically, it's all about planning. Although it's a sad reality that these foreign health manufacturing companies are leaving. But it also boils down to, over the years, what have they been doing in terms of research of their products in Nigeria? Because most of the things they use to produce are imported. It affected them, it affected their production. So over the years they have existed, they can't find any of those raw material to help them to produce. Is that what is happening? Or most of the equipment they are using, even though when they have it, when they have problems, they can't find someone to fix for them. Because when you talk about cost of production, you're talking about energy, you're talking about machine equipment, you're talking about material use. So out of these three, so they were unable to find any of them within Nigeria to help them, alternatively to help them to survive the business, and that's why they did. Another thing we also need to understand that it is like in Nigerian economy, people prefer importation because importation is cheaper and you make more money from importation. And that's what I see about this foreign pharmaceutical company.
But as we talk about foreign, what happens to our local manufacturers? Because at a time during the Goodluck Ebele Jonathan's administration, there was about how much now? About 300 billion intervention fund for our local manufacturing companies. And besides that, they also, some of them got WHO certification then to manufacture drugs locally. One begins to ask, what happens to our local
Is the environment, cost of production, they call it OPEX, operational cost expenses, terms of energy, terms of tax, terms of acquiring equipment, importing those machineries, because they are not here. So those costs of operation make most of them to fizzle out. Even the intervention fund they get.
And I even understood they got under Yaradua too.
Exactly. When they get under Jonathan, even Buhari, if you remember 2020 COVID-19, a lot of them get intervention. But I don't know, when they collect that money and put the money into business, the challenge swallow it up. The challenge of energy, cost of energy, diesel, electricity, you swallow it up. Then cost of raw material they bring in to produce, swallow it up. These two particularly, I'm not talking about tax. Tax doesn't swallow most of their whatever. But the machines, equipment, and material they use, this is what they spend money on. Then other issues like taxes that they are paying for importation, taxes they are paying to the government, swallow it up. I'm not even talking about the salary they are paying to the workers. That one is out of it. But once they put this money into the business, the challenging environment from energy, majorly energy, the importation of machines and equipment, then the raw material they use. That's why I pointed out from the beginning that in the last how many years they have been existing, what alternative research have they done, particularly on materials, component material they use in producing this drug? Are they saying they can't find it here? Okay, let's even leave machines aside.
That is exactly where I was going to. It's why these materials, of course, we talk about herb, herbal leaves and all those stuff, and plants and all those stuff. Because I remember when the DG of WHO then, Margaret Chan, when they after a series of consultations and everything, that was how artemisinin derived combination therapy for malaria was agreed upon and selected. And you discover that China also, where she's from, all this Chile, has artemisinin. And during the process, I think there was a policy statement from the federal government then that we should also have homegrown these artemisinin leaves, because they are there. Nigeria has arable land. What happened to all this?
It is because what the policy direction was for the manufacturing company of those drugs to take advantage of it. But they don't find it that easy, in the sense that they prefer to import whatever they have been using to produce those drugs more cheaper.
Not cheaper.
Than
to grow it.
And you know that it will take them to research into those raw materials.
Yes.
And that is where they are missing it. And I said it on the sister session this morning that what our private businesses are doing is that they keep complaining. But ask them, how much have they done in researching the environment of their businesses? They don't do it. So when you keep lamenting that dollar is doing this, dollar, you forget that you're supposed to have alternative. That's why in developing climate, business doesn't exist in America for nothing. They invest in research. And when they discover that research can help it, it reduces the cost of their production.
That.
For here in Nigeria, whatever they are going because they fail to research. But they are going to research where they are going.
And a few years ago, too, even NIPRIT, this Nigerian
pharmaceutical research institution,
exactly. They also developed a tablet or whatever for sickle cell anemia.
Exactly.
And they agreed then that they were going to go into mass production. But nothing, it just died.
They were what happened? They were waiting for all these big manufacturing companies to buy that trademark from them and produce. Because they may not be able to produce massively. So when those companies buy the trademark from them, pay them, they'll be producing it. That's what happened for COVID-19 vaccine. The university that produced it, sell it to manufacturing companies, sell it to Indians, sell it to Russians, and they bought it and they were producing it. That's why it is done in research institute. When you produce a particular product, you sell it to a company that you know that can take it to and produce massively. That is how it is done. But here in Nigeria,
that is why obviously maybe I'm in support of this Bola Tinubu's administration for universities to remain independent or maybe to generate revenue. Because our university centers are supposed to be centers of research, but we are not seeing research coming out of it. That's why in areas that defy solutions to Nigerians, then they are supposed to come up with research, but we are not seeing much of that.
It is because they are lazy. They are lazy and they don't want to tax them.
They just want to collect salaries
and remain there, writing paper proposal. That is all. In the engineering faculty, the medical faculty, they're supposed to be doing this. But another thing is that when they produce like that, they're supposed to market it in a commercialized quantity. And so, okay, we have this. So how many of it are they doing? Do we have a national office for technology promotion? I can help you to mark it out and introduce it to Nigerians. But what are the universities doing? They just keep quiet. Not that there is no research, it is there. But the leadership to tax them that what you have produced, bring it out, let us see it. It is not there. We have every year we are conducting science and technology innovation conferences every year. You come and exhibit what you have innovated, but nobody is taking it up, and that's why
nobody is taking it up. That is this problem we are having, because at the end of the day, like there was a video that went viral. A young lady, I think this expo, this science and tech taking place in Cross River. She actually did a phone that even uses AI, that has so many functions that you use. And the young lady said it will take about 2.5 cents for 2.5 to get it. How many companies are ready to buy it up and mass produce for Nigeria?
I think for me, if we have an agency called National Science Agency for Science and Technology, they can partner with that young lady and develop those things into commercial quantity. They can even improve on what she has done, and it will be big. But here we are, as she's in Cross River, they will just ignore her. They will ignore her.
Because years ago, when these lecturers met on research in Dubai, I think one of the agencies, which I don't want to call its name, went to Dubai to market kilichi. And many people were disappointed that in this 22, not even 21st century, somebody will actually go overseas to market kilichi. Maybe,
although we heard the story too, I think what the other side of the story is they have an equipment they develop that could produce kilichi in a timeline. Maybe they didn't showcase the equipment; they were only showcasing the meat. Because I knew that particular agency that you are talking about.
This issue of drugs, pharmaceuticals, has become an issue for Nigerians now. So what is the way forward? What are we going to do? Because P&G also is on its way out. What can be done to stem the tide? Because the pharmaceuticals are really, really high now and out of the reach of the average Nigerian.
For me, I think the local companies that are here, that are also producing a similar product like that, this is the opportunity for them to improve on the shine and shine. How could it be 26,000 for a drug of 4,000? I remember when my wife had Operation ACS, we bought that drug 3.5, that particular one, now 26,000.
Thank God it was then.
It was then. We are not praying that anybody should fall into it. So it is now left for the local companies who are also producing. I may not mention them, but we have them. We have several local. So it's now for them to diversify and go into that particular production and improve on it. then government too can also support those guys. I'm not saying government should go and give them money. Help them to create that enabling environment and market for their product to be accepted, because there's one thing for you to accept a local produced product like that and a foreign one. It is now time for us to say, okay, through NOA, National Orientation Agency, this is Nigerian product, buy this one. It is the equivalent of this. I saw paracetamol being sold for 14 naira.
Yes.
It is not for, it is, I think it was 18 naira to 19 naira they are selling it then. Before now, it's now 150. And it depends on the product. There are local ones that are being sold for 100 naira, there are foreign ones that are being sold for 150, 200 naira. I can tell you for free. I even bought one recently. I bought the local one as against the foreign one. When they told me that, I said, what's the difference? It's the same thing. It's
the foreign one was how much?
200 naira, and the local one was 100 naira. I took the local one and it worked. So it is now time for Nigerian government to say, we are not giving you money, but we'll help you to create the enabling environment for you to advertise your product. And Nigerians will be aware that this particular drug that is now going for 26,000 because it is foreign, can be buy it at 4,000 naira because it is locally produced, and it will be better for the government because they will make more money, they will recruit more people, they will expand, and they will pay more taxes. And for me, that is the way to go. Encourage local production, encourage local companies to be producing all those foreign drugs that the companies have left. Let those local ones be producing it, and let NAFDAC support them through their research, their verification and identification of those drugs, and to go a long way. We don't need, see, in India, you don't import drugs, they produce all their drugs in India. If you bring any foreign drug to India, they will domesticate it and start producing it in their own way with their own local resources. So for those companies that have left, it is for our own good they left, so that our local ones can
to sit up
and do better. Okay. That's what I see.
So there is hope.
Yes.
Yet. All right, thank you so much. At least you've left us with hope and something to take away from today's program. And it's always a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm Nick for Larry. So viewers, this is where we end today's segment of your show, Inside Nigeria, which was brought to you on Leadership Television. My name is Winifred Okwebo. Don't forget that same time, same station. Tomorrow is another day. Do keep a date with us. See you.
Right, thank you so much. I didn't know that this television
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.